Om Sai Ram. Let us understand chapter number 31, the greatness of darshan. But before that, let us do the namaste, followed by chapter number 31, and we will conclude by doing the aarti. Shri Satchidananda Satguru Sainath Maharaj ki Jai. Om Shri Sai Nathaya Namaha. Om Shri Sai Nathaya Namaha. Om Sai Nathaya Namaha. Om Shri 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 Sai Nathaya Namaha. Om Sai Ram. Chapter number 31, the greatness of darshan. I bow down to Shri Ganesh. I bow down to Shri Saraswati. I bow down to the Guru. I bow down to the family deity. I bow down to Shri Sita Ramachandra. I bow down to Shri Sadguru Sainath. In the last chapter, the stories of the devotee of Saptashri Giri and how Sai got Madhavrau's woe fulfilled were narrated. Also, how darshan was given in dreams to Kushal Sheth and Ramlal, and how Ramlal was kept in Shirdi till Maha Samadhi of Baba. The present story is more unique than those. Listeners hear it with great respect. How one sannyasi on his way to Manasarovar attained liberation. Also, how Mankar, Nulkar, and Megha's objectives were fulfilled. These were men, but even a cruel tiger was given a place at Baba's feet. These stories are very elaborate, but this book will be greatly lengthened. Therefore, I will narrate briefly by giving their essence, which will be beneficial to the seekers. A person is reborn according to his thoughts at the time of death. Insects, on account of fear, become bees, while King Jababharat was born as a deer on account of the deer that he had read and about whose welfare he remained concerned in his last moments. A person is reborn in the form which he is contemplating at the time of death. The one who is humble at the feet of God is not reborn. And this is the reason for advocating the practice of constant chanting of the Lord's name so that one is not bewildered at the time of death and one practices it at that time too. All the sadhanas of a lifetime would be wasted if one is not alert at the crucial moment, and the good company of saints kept during the life would be proven fertile. Therefore, those devotees who are full of devotion entrust their lives in the hands of saints because they alone know whether the rebirth is there or not. They are the only companions at the end. The story illustrating this point happened in the presence of Sai. The listeners will realize Sai's love for the devotees. How distant was Madras from Shirdi, and Shirdi from the steep ascent of Manasarovar. But when the time was ripe, he brought the devotees at his feet. Once a Madras sannyasi named Vijay Anand left Madras for Manasarovar and with great enthusiasm. He had seen a Japanese traveler's map of Manasarovar and gave him a great desire to have darshan. Shirdi was on the way and he had heard of Baba's fame. With the desire of darshan, he came searching for him. Hearing that Sai Maharaj was a great saint, renowned and known all over the world, he decided to have a darshan. So he stopped over en route. Swami Somadevi ji of Haridwar was also there in Shirdi at that time. Both of them naturally met at the gathering of the devotees. The sannyasi asked him how far Manasarovar was. The Swami told him it was 500 miles and the route lay over Gangotri. It shows snows heavily there. The dialect changes every 50 cos. The Bhutanese are very suspicious and the travelers are greatly harassed. Hearing this information given by the Swami, the sannyasi was distressed. He was in two minds and felt very worried. He took Sai Baba's darshan and prostrated at his feet. He felt highly pleased. He sat cross legged in front of Baba. Then Baba became furious and said to those present, "Drive away the sannyasi. His company is not worthwhile. To begin with, the sannyasi was a newcomer and he did not know Baba's nature. Though he felt a little ashamed, he sat there observing what was going on in the way of service. It was morning, Darbar time was there, and a lot of people assembled in the masjid. He was benumbed by watching the people perform puja with appropriate rituals. Some washed Baba's feet and collected the teeth from his toes in a small ladle. They drank it with pure devotion, and others reverently touched it with their eyes. Some applied sandalwood paste to him, and some smeared his body with fragrant ethers. They all forgot the distinction bit of their caste and whether they were Brahmins or Shudras. Though Baba was enraged with him, the sannyasi felt overflowing affection. He did not feel like leaving and he did not get up from where he was seated. He stayed in Shirdi for 2 days. In the meanwhile, he got a letter informing him that his mother was ill at home. He was saddened by that. He felt like going back home and being with his mother, but without Baba's permission, he could not take a step. Then taking a letter in his hand, and the sannyasi went to the masjid. He began to plead with Baba and to relate his mother's condition. Maharaj Sai Samartha, I am longing to go and meet my mother. Give me your permission happily and bless me for my journey. He fell at Baba's feet and continued, won't you grant me permission as a favor? My mother is holding on to life and she is about to die being bedridden. She must be waiting for me. So permit me to have a last look at her. It will enable her to bear her pains and have a peaceful end. Sai Samartha was omnipresent, and knowing that the sannyasi's own death was near, hear what he said to him with attention. If you are so fond of your mother, then why did don't why did you garb of a sannyasi? Attachment does not befit these clothes. You have blemished this ochre garb. Go and sit and do not feel disheartened. Let a few days pass, then we will think further. Do not lose patience and courage. There are many thieves in the Vada. Bolt all the doors and be vigilant. They will rob you of all your possessions and attack you ferociously. Wealth is not permanent, and the body, they always are transient. Knowing the death is always present. Behave according to the Shastras and remain awake to your dharma. In this world, if one has pride about body, wife, children, etc., it leads to threefold calamities. This misery on account of worldly existence. The second calamity relates to the desire for the realm of heaven. Those whose desire the other world for them also this is a hindrance to attain self realization. They are always dejected there, that is in the other world is no accumulation of merits. So what happened is what happened is that there is no fearlessness. There is fear of a fall where the store of good deeds come to an end. Therefore, enjoyment of both this world and the next is disastrous. Complete renunciation of both is needed to derive eternal bliss. Those who are fed up of worldly existence and have surrendered at the feet of Lord know the knots of attachment are loosened and hold ignorance is removed. While when one is unfailingly involved in singing the Lord's name, the sin, suffering, and poverty disappear. And your store of past merits is considerable, so that you have come here. Now, attend what I say and release the great purpose of your life. From tomorrow, start reading the Bhagavad truly. Do three readings during 3 consecutive weeks continuously. Being desireless, hear the book or read it with concentration and contemplate on it day and night. The Lord will be pleased and bring an end to all your sorrows. Illusions and attachments will disappear and you will gain great happiness. After performing your ablutions, concentrating on the Lord, complete this vow that I have told you, and you will be free from attachments. When his own end was nearing, Baba arranged the reading of Ram Vijay, which pleases the Lord of Death. The next day, in the after completing the ablutions and his bath, he offered Baba a handful of flowers and took the dust of his feet on his head. Carrying the Bhagavad under his arm, he looked for a quiet place to read and found Lendi Bagh peaceful and most suitable. He sat cross-legged and started the reading. Being a sannyasi, love for God was in his nature, and he completed 2 readings in 2 weeks. When he started the third reading, he felt uneasy. He felt a weakness which had increased, so he left that unfinished. He returned to the Vada very ill for 2 days. When the third day dawned, Bua did not open his eyes, and placing his head on Fakir Baba's lap, the sannyasi breathed his last. He was released from this body. When Baba was informed about the sannyasi's death, he instructed to keep the body for a day. Do not bury him immediately, said Baba. So the people hoped that he would return to life and be protected in the body. Does life come again when a person is dead? But in obedience to Baba's word, the body was taken care of. Ultimately, the words proved correct. The unclaimed body was taken care of. The doubts of the police were removed, where they made an enquiry. But there was no question of his coming to life again. Did Baba not know that the dead body would not regain life? The only purpose was that there should be an enquiry before burying the body, since the government is responsible for the disposal of an unclaimed corpse. A sudden death is always investigated. Therefore, Baba had instructed not to bury the body beforehand. So be it. Later, everything happened. The last rites were performed over the body and it was buried in a proper place. The saint's work was completed, that is, giving liberation to a sannyasi. Here is another similar story which I'm going to narrate to the listeners. Listen to it with respectful attention for a while. You will realize Sai's pervasiveness. A householder named Balram Mankar was a great devotee of Baba. But later, his wife died, and there was an interruption in the performance of his duties as a householder. He lost peace of mind, but he progressed towards the highest bliss because of the accumulation of good deeds in the previous birth. He got attached to Sai's feet. He developed unfailing faith there and was completely detached from worldly ties, breaking all his ties with hopes, desires, family, and children. Mankar, due to his uncommon faith, left worldly existence. The main obstacle is entering the gate of spirituality is the desire to earn livelihood and care for others. He placed this burden on his son and locked himself away from worldly concerns and went to Shirdi. This too is a kind of sannyas of which There were many varieties, but that which is not born of knowledge and thus impressed in mind leads to difficulty at every step. Therefore, this Sai's generosity incarnate, considering Mankar's singular devotion, felt like gracing him and ensured that his detachment was strengthened. The overlay of impressions of an infinite number of birds do not allow the fickle mind to become steady. The waves of fond dreams are powerful, and detachment is not firmly rooted. Shirdi alone is not my abode. I am beyond limits of time and space. To prove this, Baba ordered Mankar thus: "You have stayed in Shirdi for long enough. Take these 12 rupees in cash for expenses. Go to Manikar Gad for penance. Stay there determined to achieve happiness." Hearing these words of Sai and deciding to obey his orders, he bowed his head. Making an eightfold prostration, he paid obeisance at his feet. But with great humility, Balram said to Sai, "What should I do to in a place where I cannot have your darshan? Here I have the darshan of your feet daily and obtained the teeth of the washing of your feet and can meditate on you day and night without any effort. I shall be a destitute here. Therefore, without you, Baba, how can I achieve my welfare? There, I am incapable of understanding your idea in sending me to that place. But knowing that a devotee should never doubt, not even the fraction of a second, his guru's words, he felt immediate remorse and Mankar's doubt vanished. He said, "Baba, forgive me. My thoughts were base. I am ashamed that I have doubts. Doubts do not befit me. Even under your command, absorbed in chanting the Lord's name, I will stay at the guard only with the protection of your power. There also I will meditate upon you. I will remember you, your merciful image. I will think only of your feet. This will be my penance. I am totally surrendered to you. I have entrusted all my movements into your hands. Then why should I get this thought in my mind? Because of my power, of the power of your command, I will get peace there also, where I know your capability. Why should I unnecessarily worry? Sai Samartha is Brahman eternal. His words are unalterable as those written by Brahma. Whosoever believes in them will experience this. Then Baba said to him, "Be attentive and listen to my words. Do not labor under my doubts. Go to Machinder Gad immediately. Practice meditation thrice a day. After a passage of time, you will have heavenly bliss." Hearing this assurance, Mankar remained silent. What shall I say? Who is this humble one? He prepared for his departure to God, once again bowing down at Sai's feet and receiving Udi blessings. Mankar left for Machinder Gad with a calm mind. Arriving at the pleasant place where there was pure clean water and cool breeze, he felt contented. So this Mankar, as directed by Sai, remained at God without Sai. He practiced meditation and was told and advised. Then see Baba's marvel. When Mankar was in deep meditation, he was given a darshan in person at God and he had an experience. There is nothing surprising in having darshan in the samadhi state of meditation, but this happened when he was still seated and about to get up from meditation. He was Shri Samartha. Not only did he see him, but Balkaram asked him in person, "Baba, why did you send me there?" Here the reply he gave: "While you were in Shirdi, you had many ideas and many waves of thoughts arose. Therefore, for quietening your fickle mind, I sent you to God. You thought that I was in Shirdi with a body composed of five elements and 3.5 cubits in length and not outside it. Now you see and determine yourself whether the person you see here is the same as you saw in Shirdi. It is for this reason I sent you here. So be it. Then this Mankar, after the completion of the specified time, left Machinder Garh to go to his home. He felt like going to Bole, where he lived, so he decided to travel by train from Pune to Dadar. He went to Pune station when the time came for buying the ticket and he was at the ticket window. Then a miracle happened. An unknown traveler with a loin cloth around his waist and with a rough blanket on his shoulder, with the appearance of being rustic, was seen near the ticket window. This rustic had just bought a ticket for Dadar. While returning from the window, his eyes encountered those of Mankar's, so he approached him. He asked, "Where are you going?" And when he told Dadar, he gave the ticket immediately, saying, "You take it." I too was going to Dadar, but I remembered some important work for which I have to stay here. Hence, I cannot leave. Tickets are not easily available even after payment. When it is offered without making any effort, Mankar was pleased. Then he took out the money from his pocket and paid the fare. The rustic had pushed into the crowd and it could not be discovered when he had disappeared. Balaram Balkram made all efforts to find the rustic, but they were all in vain. By the time the train came, who was this rustic, barefooted and bare-bodied, carrying just a rough blanket and wearing a tattered cloth around his head? The money for the fare was not small amount either, and he paid it in cash from his own pocket. Why has he put me under his obligation? I am unable to understand it. He was generous and selfless. Who can this be appearing a rustic? This event ultimately remained a mystery. Mankar was disturbed. With all questions working in his mind, he kept on standing near the door of the compartment till the train moved in the hope of sighting him. But as the train started to move and he lost all hope of meeting him, he caught the handle of the door and jumped into the train, meeting Baba personally at the guard. And now this is another strange incident. Recalling the rustic's peculiar apparel, Mankar felt restless. So be it. Later, this faithful devotee returned to Shirdi for the welfare at Sai's feet with singular attachment, firm faith, and devotion. The devotee Balkramji stayed in Shirdi, buzzing around the dust particles at the lotus feet of Sai, constantly humming the name of Sai with Baba's permission and the company of Muktaramji. Sometimes he left Shirdi and travelled elsewhere, but Shirdi was the main place to which he returned, and again. At last, he died on the sacred soil of Shirdi. What a store of merits must be his when a man leaves his mortal coil in the presence of Sai and with his mind concentrated on his feet. For him, death is without fear. Blessed was Tatya Nolkar, and blessed was a great devotee Megha, who ultimately breathed his last in Shirdi while worshipping Sai. When Megha died, see the importance given by Baba for his cremation and Baba's affection towards the devotee Megha already gratified. Accompanied by all the devotees, the villagers went in procession to the cremation ground. Baba also went to the cremation ground, showering flowers on Megha. After Megha's last stretch, Baba's eyes was also filled with tears. Like an ordinary being with all attachment, he was full of grief. With love, Baba covered the body with his own hands with plentiful flowers. After lamenting the death with pitiful tones, he returned. Many saints have been observed to grant salvation to human beings, but how can one adequately describe Sai Baba's greatness in this respect? Can a fierce animal like a tiger have intelligence like a human being? Yet, even he became humble at his feet. Indescribable are Sai's actions. Listen to an interesting story illustrating this. With careful attention, you will realize Baba's all pervasive nature and the same concern that he had for all living beings. A miracle happened once in Shirdi, 7 days before Baba's Mahani one. A bullock cart came to the door of the countryside and stood there. In it was a huge tiger, tightly tied with a chain round his neck, with its fierce face facing at the back. The tiger was suffering from some disease. His owners, who were dervishes, having failed to cure him so far, decided to bring him to a saint, which is the best and last resort. There were three dervishes, and the tiger was the means of their livelihood. But by exhibiting him from village to village, they earned their bread. While they were in the vicinity, they heard Baba's Leelas and decided to have darshan along with the tiger. They said, "Let us go and take darshan and take the tiger too. His feet are like the wish fulfilling gem. The 8 siddhis prostrate at his feet. The 9 nidhis roll at his feet and take the tita from the washing of his feet. Let us go and place our heads at his feet and ask blessings for the tiger. All of us will achieve our welfare if we are favored with his words of blessing. For this purpose, those dervishes made the tiger get down near the door of the masjid. Holding the chain firmly, they stood waiting at the door. To begin with, the tiger was very fierce and frightful. Moreover, it was ridden with an incurable malady. Therefore, it was very restless. Everyone was watching, fascinated. The dervish told Baba about the condition of the tiger in detail, and after getting Baba's consent, came to the door to fetch him. Securing his chain tighter lest he should break loose, they brought him before Baba with care. When the tiger came near the steps, seeing Sai's divine effulgence, it is difficult to explain why he was taken aback and hung his head down with great reverence. Then observe the miracle as the tiger climbed the steps and they saw each other. The tiger looked at Baba with love. It fluffed the tuft of its tail and thrashed the ground thrice with it, then fell lifeless at Sai's feet. He gave just one mighty roar and fell down dead at that very spot. The people were surprised that the tiger had died. The dervishes were at first much dejected, but later they seemed glad that this deceased animal, who was expected to die, had attained a release. Death in the presence of saints and sages is immensely meritorious, whether be it a woman, a worm, an insect, or a tiger. All their sins are pardoned. This tiger must have been credited to us in the past life, which it repaid and became free of death. He died at the feet of Sai. Wonderful are the workings of fate. Anyone who dies while placing the head at the feet of a saint, he gets himself delivered and gains the benefit of a lifetime. Unless one is very fortunate, can one merely leave the body in the presence of a saint? He will attain salvation. It is immense bliss to leave one's body in the presence of a saint. Even the poison becomes nectar. Death is a pleasure and not a sorrow. One who dies in the presence and feet of a saint is blessed and is merged with God, never to be born again. Dying in the presence of saint is not death, but the bliss of heaven. He has won the transient world and has no worry about rebirth. One who leaves the body in the presence of saints does not return to this world. All sins are pardoned by that, and he is rescued. One who dies looking at the saint from head to toe, nails, can be called a death. It is true realization. Considering the early life achievements, the tiger must have been a virtuous person, but while showing off his pandemic pride, slighted some great devotee of God. On account of his devotee's curse, he took birth in this cruel form. But by the mitigation of curse, he came to Sai's feet. Strange are the ways of great devotees. It appears that curse was mitigated. His sins were destroyed by Sai's darshan. His bondage was broken. His penance was done, and he gained salvation effortlessly. Unless one has perfect blessings, good fortune, how can one die in the presence of a saint? The threefold affliction, the trio of your object and action, and the three gunas are annihilated. He becomes formless. Thus, because of the merits of a past life, he was freed from bondage of this cruel body and also from the iron chains. This can only be God's decision. If not, at the feet of saints and sages, where else can one be freed? And where else could there be salvation? When this tiger attained it, the dervishes were pleased. The tiger was their means of livelihood and also the means of sustaining their families. Therefore, when the tiger died, the dervishes felt sad too. The dervishes asked Maharaj, what should we do now? How do we bury him? Give him salvation with your own hand. Maharaj said, do not grieve. He was destined to die here. He was very meritorious and has now achieved great happiness. Beyond the Takya, where there is a Shiva temple, take him there and bury him near the Nandi. If you bury him, he will get salvation. He will be freed from your debt and at your hands only. Being indebted to you in the past life, he has taken this birth to repay your debt. Therefore, he remained your captive till today. Then the dervishes picked him up, went towards the temple, they buried him behind the Nandi. What a miracle happened! How did this tiger suddenly die? If only this much had happened, the people would have forgotten. But only 7 days after this, Baba himself left the mortal coil. Because of that, the memory of this incident arises often. The next chapter is more interesting than this. Baba himself tells about the marvels of his guru to satisfy Gokhale's Bai's wishes and to grant her grace. Hemad surrenders to Sai. Listen to how Baba attained the grace of his guru who hanged him upside down over a well. May there be well being. This is the end of the 31st chapter of the Shri Sai Satcharithra, written by the devotee Hemad Pant, impelled by saints and virtuous people, called The Greatness of Darshan. This is offered to Sri Satguru Sainath. May there be auspiciousness. Now, let us do the Aarti. श्री सच्चिदानंद सद्गुरु साईनाथ महाराज की जय. शिर्डी माझे पंढरपूर साई बाबा रमावर, बाबा रमावर, साई बाबा रमावर, शुद्ध भक्ती चंद्रभागा भाव कुंडली कंसागा, कुंडली कंदागा भाव कुंडली कंदागा, याव याव अवघे जना करा बाबा श्री वंदना, साई श्री वंदना करा बाबा श्री वंदना, गणोबले बाबा साई भाव पाव माझे आई, पाव माझे आई, पाव पाव माझे आई, कनेलो तांगण वने गचरण तुयाचे पायन तुझे प्रेमीन रंगीन अनंत पूजिम भवेव Satcharithra every day and soak in Baba bliss. Baba bless you. Om Sai Ram.